Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply, and multiply until every natural resource is consumed. And the only way you can survive is to spread to another area.
Hugo Weaving's Mr. Smith lectures Lawrence Fishburne's Morpheus in 1999's The Matrix on humanity's fatal flaw. While history may paint a negative picture of our efforts, the future looks bright. That future is sustainability, a paradigm shift that promises to reshape our relationship with the environment and the resources we consume. This vision of sustainability is not just about preserving nature, it's about creating a healthier, more resilient world for future generations. The components of sustainability in the tech world include energy efficiency, waste reduction, water conservation, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, sustainable product design, and employee engagement. Energy efficiency. Companies can optimize manufacturing processes to reduce energy consumption and developing products that are more energy efficient to cut down operational costs and reduce environmental impact. Waste reduction. Comprehensive recycling programs reducing material usage and improving manufacturing process. Companies can minimize the environmental footprint of their operations and products. Water conservation, implementing measures to recycle and reuse water to a point where every drop could be recaptured and reused. And reducing greenhouse gas emissions. This is where the bulk of the effects can yield real benefits to lower carbon footprints and reduce, reuse, recycle with ambitious goals of net zero by 2040. And then we get into sustainable product design. There's a fine balance between creating energy efficient and environmentally friendly products that meet regulatory standards and customer expectations, while also generating a reasonable rate of return for stakeholders. One company that exemplifies these principles is Microchip. Our commitment to sustainability is evident in our comprehensive approach known as Microchip 360 Sustainability. This includes energy efficiency, waste reduction, water conservation, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Our products, such as the PD77728 and PD70228 ICs, are designed with the lowest power consumption in mind, and their packaging is 100% recyclable, PVC-free, allergen-free, and compliant with RoHS and REACH standards. The GS series of midspans takes this even further with improvements in key areas. Microchip's dedication to sustainability has not gone unnoticed. Forbes recently named Microchip a net zero leader, ranking number 6 on their list. This recognition highlights leadership in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and promoting sustainable practices. Companies like Microchip are taking real, tangible actions to protect the environment, conserve resources, and minimize waste. How can Microchip technology show real leadership in driving sustainability for future generations? Let's go beyond the microchip and hear a story of empowering innovation to enhance the human experience. Returning to the podcast is Alan Zwerin. Alan is Senior Product Marketing Manager at Microchip Technology, specializing in Power over Ethernet solutions. He joins us today from Tel Aviv, Israel. Welcome back, Alan.
Thanks a lot. Happy to be here.
Thank you for returning to Beyond the Microchip. Last time we talked about greenwashing and how companies talk a big game, but they're not really doing anything meaningful in most respects. But at Microchip, we think we're actually moving the needle on sustainability and product design and other areas. Let's go back to what we were talking about regarding how companies measure sustainability, and then we can kind of turn the microscope on ourselves. What do you think?
Well, what we discussed last time was the fact that it's not enough to say it. You have to be able to define what your objectives are in each of these areas, measure them, report on them, and have complete transparency. And I really think that we're doing that. Another thing that we brought up is how we promote this ethic throughout our entire corporation by getting them involved not only in our products, but even in producing our annual report to contribute to it in many different and creative ways. So it's something we really look at Microchip. I know in the Power over Ethernet business unit, it's not only about the ITC design, and we also make things like midspans here, but it's in the packaging, it's in the materials that we use, It's in everything that we do. I think one of the areas still to be conquered is once it's finished its life, how we dispose of it properly. And I think we're working on that too. So we're making concrete steps in everything we do to make sure that the Power over Ethernet business unit and Microchip in general is striving for our objective. One of our major objectives is net zero by 2040.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what does it mean to be net zero?
So net zero refers to greenhouse gases, and it means that not that you're not producing any greenhouse gases, but you are taking action so that the greenhouse gases that you are producing, either you are making sure that they don't escape to the environment, or you're taking equal amounts of greenhouse gases out of the environment to make sure that we are not adding to the community around us. Because it's not just about sustainability, it's by making sure we're positively contributing to the environment around us. So it's not to say we can't produce any greenhouse gases, but it's we're taking the proper action to make sure we're not adding to the net greenhouse gas in the environment.
Something we've got along the lines of our commitment to sustainability. We've got some energy efficiency, waste reduction, water conservation, and greenhouse gas emissions. Those are all specific to the sustainability report that we talked about, which is an annual report we release around May or June timeframe every year. And in those cases, we talk about very, very specific things we do in the manufacturing process, but also how we operate our office buildings, right?
How we power our office buildings, how we heat and cool the office buildings. I mean, sustainability is, if you want, we call it 360 degrees within Microchip. Yep. On everything that we do. It's even down to our HR policies. We're making sure that we're creating a livable environment for all the employees, and that the environment not only is the building that we're in, but the community that we're in.
So we've got waste reduction in terms of we minimize waste through recycling programs, reducing material usage, and improving manufacturing processes to generate less waste. I know that we've got, I think everybody, at least within the headquarter campus here in Chandler, everybody's got 2 trash cans. There's kind of an off-white trash can that's just for refuse, and then there's a blue trash can that's specific to recycling. And every single cubicle has that so that everybody has an opportunity. And then they also do a once a period shredding opportunity for paper that you can't throw in the recycling bin, but you still want to recycle.
So in my office over here, we have 3 recycling bins. One of them, interestingly enough, is for batteries, for used up batteries, so that we, we recycle them properly. That's very important. And it's also important into how we produce our products. I work in the Power over Ethernet business unit. Power over Ethernet has a lot of energy efficiency characteristics. Nothing is 100% energy efficient, but it lends itself to energy efficiency. But it's not just about the product, it's how we package the product. We use 100% recyclable materials. We've gotten rid of all plastics. We've gotten rid of anything that cannot be recycled into the product. As you mentioned in your introduction, we follow the standards to prevent hazardous materials. It's called RoHS or RoHS.
Yeah, RoHS,
And we also do, we make sure that we comply with all the standards of what is allowed in there. We are halogen free. We are make sure that nothing that is hazardous to the environment goes into our products. It started with lead a long time ago, but now it's much, much more sophisticated.
Yeah, so I'll put a pin in that right there. So RoHS compliant means that a product meets the requirements of the European Union's Restrictive of Hazardous Substances Directive. RoHS compliance is a legal requirement for businesses that sell electrical and electronic products in the EU. Products are tested by an independent authority to confirm that they contain no more than the allowable levels of restricted services or restricted substances. Manufacturers, importers, and distributors must provide documentation that the product complies with RoHS. Products must meet necessary labeling requirements. Products must be monitored and improved to ensure compliance. Employees must be trained and aware of RoHS compliances. So RoHS directive restricts the use of certain substances, including lead, mercury, cadmium, hexavalent chromium, polybrominated biphenyls, PBB, and polybrominated diphenyl ethers, PBDE. all of those go into the restriction of hazardous substances directive.
RoHS and REACH are both European standards, but there are standards coming out of California. There are standards out of Australia, everywhere now. And to produce an electrical or an electronic device, and we do this in the power over Ethernet business, you have to take them, as you said, to an independent testing. There are about a couple of hundred on between materials and chemicals now that are not allowed in products, and we have to comply with that. We have to get them independently tested. We have an entire team in the Power over Ethernet business unit that looks at this, and we have an entire server of certifications. And there's not a day that goes by where a customer won't say, hey, I need this report to show that we comply with this standard because I'm taking in a device into this location.
And we've got it. We've got all that documentation.
Yes, it took me a while to learn what everything was and where it all is, but yes, we've got it all.
One thing that Microchip is known for is its excellent documentation. So we do have a full staff of technical writers, and I know that we managed to have that very well maintained. Let's keep going down the list. So water conservation. Microchip implements water conservation measures in its facilities, including recycling and reusing water in manufacturing processes to reduce overall water consumption. One thing that people might not understand about the semiconductor manufacturing process is we have to, in some cases, use ultra pure water. And I think what people don't take for granted is their water has a lot of other stuff in it besides just hydrogen and oxygen. But if you're going to get down to ultra pure water from firms like Mettler Toledo, they'll actually get down to just 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. And if anybody's aware of what that means, that water is thirsty. It sucks up everything it touches.
And then once it's used in a process, as you say, it absorbs a lot of other things. And then if we want to reuse it, we've got to make sure that we go through a process. Again, reusing it, though, is going to expend some energy. So there's got to be a balance between the water conservation and the water recycling and also the energy consumption. So it's not an easy thing. But what we do is we report on these efforts every year. We give hard numbers to what's happening at each and every plant that we have and each and every location that we have. And we are demonstrating visibly that we are reducing our water consumption and we're reducing our energy consumption in each of these. And it's not a trivial process at all, as you mentioned.
Greenhouse gas emissions, improving energy efficiency using renewable energy sources and implementing other emission-reducing technologies. There are some noble gases involved in semiconductor manufacturing. I think neon is one of them. But there are a number of things that happen in such a chemical process as etching a silicon wafer. And so any opportunity we can do to reduce the amount of gases that we use also helps with our sustainability efforts. You talked about product design. Then there's a little thing called employee engagement. So Microchip encourages its employees to participate in sustainability initiatives and provides training and resources to support sustainable practices within the workplace. So it's one thing to say, here's a poster on the wall that talks about our values. We're interested in environmental stewardship. But there are also employee engagement events. I know we do here in Arizona where we actually have volunteer go out and pick up trash or go out and plant a garden and there's a number of other opportunities where employees can contribute and do their own thing. I know we do it in Norway. I know we do it in a number of offices around the world. Is there anything in Israel that's specific to that effort?
Actually, yeah. And it's not only the environment, it's also contributing to the community, whether it's volunteering to help in schools or it's volunteering to help clean up the environment. We have initiatives going on all year round to do this. As a matter of fact, an email came out this morning saying that there are 3 initiatives this month. One was to help with taking care of children who need some additional assistance. So that was more of a community effort. But we definitely have those initiatives throughout the year here too.
I know that here in Chandler, they just recently installed EV chargers, again, because they want to encourage conversion over to electric vehicles. But there's also this kind of interesting thing that I don't know if other offices do it, is they encourage you to either bicycle, carpool, or take public transport. And there is a periodic lottery. I don't know if it's quarterly or if it's twice a year, But you can put your name in and say, I bicycle to work, I carpool, or I take public transport. And there's a raffle for prizes of people that are on that list. So the idea of how many cars can we pull off the road? How can we find other more sustainable ways to get people into the office? And then, of course, once we're in the office, we use low energy lighting. We try and do as much as we can to reduce our carbon footprint, so to speak. And I know we do that specifically in Chandler. But are there any efforts in offices that you've been to?
I haven't talked so much about those, but I do know that in here, many of the people live very, very close to here. I knew some people do bicycle to work, but also many people use public transportation to get to work. Public transportation is very, very popular. I know offline we were talking about in my neighborhood, they're putting in light rail throughout. Yeah. I grew up in New York City. I love public transportation, so, I'm a big fan of it. And public transportation is highly efficient here, and a lot of people make use of it.
So encouraging less of a strain on resources. And we have what are called air purity days here in Phoenix, where the local municipality actually puts out a bulletin over the news, or if you have an app, they'll push notification to an app that says air quality is really low today. What can you do to not impact the environment? And that's things that are kind of obvious, like don't burn your trash, but it's others like maybe put less miles on your car today if you have an internal combustion engine, maybe find less ways to pollute because the air quality is pretty bad. And I know that we push those warnings out, at least locally, within our email system here for internal communications as well. So employee involvement, stewardship, social responsibility, those are all kind of a big part of the culture here at Microchip.
It's interesting. You were mentioning electric cars. You might not realize it, but the electric car adoption is much more prevalent over here, for example, than in the United States. In the U.S., they don't have all the Chinese manufacturers that are making electric cars, but over here we have maybe a dozen electric car companies that you would have never heard of.
There's not just BYD.
There's Build Your Dreams, but there's all these weird names that are coming out over here. Though Tesla is still popular here too. I mean, you see a lot of Teslas on the road. In our parking lot, in our office here, there are dozens of electric hookups to encourage people for electric cars. So there's a big push on electric cars here. I know that the president's office over here has looked at a number of innovative initiatives to promote electric cars, even to the point where instead at a gas station of filling up with hooking yourself up and waiting to recharge, you actually replace a battery.
Wow.
Yeah, they look at all sorts of things. Not that they're working, but they take a look at them.
And looking at it, that's good. Investigation is the first step.
Yeah.
There are a number of facilities out here in the Phoenix area that will put a large solar panel array over a parking lot. And the idea is that serves a dual purpose. One, it's solar panels, but two, it's shade, because if you're not aware, it gets up to 40, 42 degrees centigrade here in the Phoenix area in the dead of summer. And so it's a nice thing to have a shaded structure for parking. I think we've investigated that. And it's probably something that we might seriously look at in the near future in terms of how can you provide an employee perk like a shaded structure while also using solar panels, because we're involved in that technology through a number of our different power products. I
was just going to say that over here, as I told you last time, we heat our water through electricity, but we're also doing a lot of very innovative things to produce solar electric power. There is solar farms in the desert. So the north of Israel is hills, and it's where a lot of the agriculture goes in. But the south of Israel is all desert. So they have electric farms in the south, but these are not normal solar panels. What these are mirrors that are highly focused and amplify the light onto a solar panel tower, so that it generates much more electricity. First time I saw that, I was amazed.
There's one of those on the California-Nevada state line off Highway 15. So for Californians that like to do their regular pilgrimage to Las Vegas, they'll see it on the side of the road. It's a gigantic mirror array that goes up to a tower.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
they built one of those years ago here. So my first time here, I had never seen one.
Well, it's smart to take use of the space. And one thing that we come back to in our private discussions, Alan, is that Israel's about the size of New Jersey. So it's nice to see that even in that small space, they're being efficient with their land.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to what?
I was going to say that then we've got to get that electricity to the people to use it. And, you and I were talking about end mile, but between or last mile, between, the generation and the last mile, there's, a whole history there of how we get to there. And you and I were discussing previous time about the infamous current wars. Mm-hmm. I told you I wrote an article even on this, which is when electricity was first came out, there was a big debate. Thomas Edison was a big advocate of DC power. Problem is, transmission of DC power loses power very, very quickly. Nikola Tesla was a very big advocate of AC power. Mm-hmm. Eventually, generation and transmission over long lines of AC power won. But, that's creating a challenge today. There is less energy loss along the transmission line. But once you get into the endpoint, most of devices are using DC power, not AC power. So you have to convert it again. And there's a energy inefficiency in that conversion.
Yeah, most people probably don't realize that there is a strong corollary between how we measure water flow and how we measure electrical flow. And I don't know if that was convenience by design or just kind of happenstance, but when you say that DC power loses over a length of period, that's effectively what we would think of as evaporation in water. And one of the reasons that we have such a problem generating and transmitting electricity is because we have to deal with flow rates, the size of the pipe, and all of those are in your standard physics definitions of volts, wattage, amps. And I think that's something that people don't quite realize when dealing with how to manage electricity. It's almost one-to-one in how you manage water in terms of waste, conversion, evaporation. And so that's funny that you mentioned that DC is great, but DC over length, you lose some.
Yeah, I mean, even in our division, we created something called Power over Ethernet in 1998, which allowed power to be put onto an Ethernet cable for IP phones. So an IP phone would be powered the same way that your home phone is. People might not realize it, but your home phone does not get power from your electric company. It gets power from the telephone company.
That's right.
And, if you've ever had a blackout and you pick up your phone and it's still working, that's why it's still working. It's getting the power from the phone company, not the electric company.
And that was to be able to reach people in an emergency, right?
Yep.
That kind of calls back to our very first discussion on natural disasters. So it's nice that we have that.
There you go. But what happens is with these advanced feature IP phones, they wanted to put in something into it that you could push a button, you could see information on the phone. You needed electricity to it. So they wanted to provide electricity over that same RJ45 cable, or it's an RJ45 connector over a Cat5, Cat6 cable, so that they could provide the power and they didn't have to have a separate power supply plugged in for each phone. And that was the origin of power over Ethernet. But even with that, an Ethernet, according to 802.3 standards that Ethernet follows, the maximum run of an Ethernet cable is 100 meters. And even at that 100 meters, when you're putting 90 watts of power over it, over 100 meters at the endpoint, there will only be between 71 and 72 watts of power available. So even at short runs, there is a significant loss of power for that.
This concludes part one of our two-part episode on microchip technology powers sustainability. Join us next time as we pick up our conversation where we left off and get into the products and technology that drive this phenomenon, along with the power savings associated with them. Thanks for listening.